Hey everyone, welcome back to The Crafty Couple. Today is a mega video that's going to be packed full of Dollar Tree Christmas DIYs. So if you're looking for some simple projects, but in the end look absolutely stunning, this is going to be a perfect video for you. Now we probably won't start this season for the Christmas DIYs until next month, but if you do want to start seeing those sooner, let us know in the comments. We can always start sooner. So if you guys enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and let us know in the comments which project's your favorite. Let's jump in and get started. For this project, we're going to be using these dowel rods from Dollar Tree, and we're using the 12-inch and the 6-inch. We're going to be creating these very minimalistic Christmas trees. So I started by taking 2 of the 12-inch dowels, and that's going to be the vertical part of our tree, and then a 6-inch dowel for this horizontal bottom part of the tree. And then I'm just using some glue to go ahead and hot glue these together. All you need is just a little bit of a dab on each corner. And for the smaller one, I'm going to use the 6-inch for the vertical and a 6-inch for this bottom part. But as you can see, I didn't want it to go all the way out and use the full 6 inches. So I just kind of eyeballed it and cut it where I thought it looked good and made that base a little bit shorter. And then again, I'm just going to hot glue those together. Once we have both of those parts of the tree completed and glued together, we can move on to creating the trunk. And the 6-inch dowel, what I originally was going to do is just mark it here in the middle at 3 inches and then go ahead and cut that and use it for the bottom. However, I didn't really like how long it was. So as you can see right here, holding it up, I just felt like they were a little bit too long. I didn't like how they looked, and I wanted it to be a little bit cleaner, I guess you could say. So what I ended up doing is chopping off 1 inch on both of those and making them a little bit smaller. I like that personally. You can obviously do it longer if you want, though that comes down to personal taste. And then again, I'm just using a little bit of hot glue to glue that on the bottom of the tree. As always, you guys are more than welcome to use something stronger than hot glue. However, for this project where they are very minimalistic and the wood is light, you're probably going to be fine if you just want to use hot glue for this. Once we have all of the tree complete, we can move on to the base. And this is going to be where we attach the tree so that it will stand upright. And you really don't need much to it. I'm just using these tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree, and for the big one I'm going to end up using 4 total. So what I did was I glued 2 of them together and then another 2, and then I will take both of those and connect them there in the middle. And then all I'm using, just real quick, is that hot glue. It works just fine for this. And then put a little bit of glue right there in the center where all 4 blocks meet, and then that's where we will glue our big tree. You want to hold it just for a little bit and give it time to dry. That way you don't worry about that falling over. And for the smaller one, the same thing, except for we're just doing it on a smaller scale. So we're just going to use 2 of those tumbling tower blocks instead of 4, and then gluing it in the center of that as well. Once we have all those pieces glued together, the last part is to add some paint. I'm using this matte black from Krylon and giving it a couple coats. Perfect way to finish this up, a very sleek and modern look to these Christmas trees.
This project has to rank at least top 5 for me for all time Christmas projects that I've made. I'm going to be using the lids of the boxes that my husband used for this video. I'll link it right here. I stained it with the Early American stain, which is one of our favorites that we have used quite a bit lately, and then I just hot glued all of the lids together. Because the top isn't solid wood and it has these designs, I'm going to be adding these craft sticks that I also got from Dollar Tree and just be putting them kind of in a hardwood design on top. All you need to do for this is cut each of the curved ends. Let me know in the comments if you've been able to find any boxes that just have plain lids or if they all have some of these designs. Once they were cut, I just started hot gluing them down in a pattern. So I put the first one down just right on the corner. The next one I put slightly down just so that they weren't all just even. The next one I glued down even more, but then the fourth one I did glue all the way back up at the top like the first one. Once you have your pattern set, just go ahead and fill the ones that can be filled with the full stick and the ones that can't, like the ones on the very left, you will want to just cut with the scissors. It really is super easy and fun to do. On the top, I was left with just this small edge on the very back, and I will just be cutting it kind of in half. It was really easy to cut, and it's in the back so you really won't see it. After that is all put on, I just stained it all with the early American stain. Then you will need to grab 3 packs of these Christmas trees. They can be the green or the white ones, it doesn't matter too much. But I scrubbed just a little bit of the sparklies off. And then I used the matte black spray paint like we did before. I absolutely loved how they looked. And then I'm going to be grabbing one of the larger ones and placing it in the top left corner. You can do more of a big little look. For some reason, I can't do it too symmetrical and organized. That drives me insane. So I did big and then little, big. So a little one is going in the front right corner. I'm doing this just so that I know where to put all the rest of them so that it is even. Now we are going to place a small one diagonally from the large one. I did remove the bases. I thought they looked quite a bit cleaner instead of the whole entire black base. You can just do that instead. It probably would be easier, but this is the way that I liked it. So then I placed another small one diagonally in the back. And then I'm placing a large one in the front diagonally across that. And then I will be placing another large one diagonally in the back.
For the little lantern, we're going to start by disassembling it all. So if you didn't know, yes, it does come apart. It is pretty simple. There's a few clips on the inside here that you can see, and I'll align it just here in a second to show you. Right like that, those all just clip in together. So all you have to do is pull it apart. You may have to use a little screwdriver to get those clips off of each other, but it is pretty simple. And we're gonna go ahead and spray paint all of these parts gloss white. Once those have dried, we can go ahead and reassemble everything. And there is this little notch here at the bottom of the glass part. It's plastic, but the glass looking part of the candle. So you just want to make sure it fits in that little part right there. And then we can put on our handle, put in the candle, and then put on our other side, and it should just kind of snap back together. And I went with the gloss white just to give it a fairly new, clean look. You can definitely use like a chalk paint and distress it just to give it a little bit more farmhouse rustic look, but I was going for more of that crisp white look. And then what I'm doing is I'm just using this ornament from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to remove these pine pieces so that I can glue at the top of this. It was a little bit difficult to get that off, so you may need a razor blade. And then all I'm going to do is use some hot glue to glue these on the top here. And then Dollar Tree also has some pine cones that we're going to use. Now they have the bigger set of pine cones, and then they have a smaller set that are these small pine cones that you can use, and they kind of have like a little bit of a snow effect on them. And I really love how these look. They're smaller than the other pine cones that they sell, so if you can find these and you want to use them for them, they'd be perfect to add to this project. And then I'm just going to pick a couple of these out and then hot glue them on. And that's really all there is to this project. It's a simple project, but you can completely transform that plain black lantern into something that's really pretty and a good little accent piece for any of your Christmas decor.
For this last project, we are going to end up using 3 of these Dollar Tree Christmas trees. So one of them we will be using the stand, and the other 2 we will only be using just the actual tree part. So the one that is on the stand, just put all of the branches down, put them all the way to the left side. For the next tree, put all the branches down as well, but put them all the way to the right side. We will be joining them together to make a little bit bigger of a tree, which I think ended up pretty cute. So I don't like this big bulky piece at the bottom. Luckily it did come off really easy with the set of needle nose pliers. To attach the second tree, I'm just using some zip ties that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm adding mine just a little bit up so that you don't see where the base is. So add 1 zip tie at the very bottom, and then I will be adding a second zip tie about midway. Now I'm moving the branches on the first tree at the very top of the first tree over to the right so that we can put the third tree. So where the very top of the first tree is, that's where you're going to put the third tree. For the third tree, just move the branches at the very bottom, since that's all that's going to be attached. And then just like we did before, add a zip tie at the very bottom where it meets, and then add one just slightly above that. Now, as you can see, we will need to move the branches quite a bit and do a lot of adjusting just to make this look a lot better. This is what the tree is looking like without adding anything or cutting anything, just adding the 3 trees. Now I grabbed a 15-foot garland from Dollar Tree, and we're going to be adding a bunch of pieces to fill in where the tops of the other 2 trees are, just since the branches were smaller and we need to fill in to make it quite a bit bigger and just add more fullness to the tree. This is one of my favorite ways to add fullness to a tree anyways, and this ended up working really well for this tree. I would recommend doing this to any tree that just needs a little extra oomph pretty much. I love doing this technique and it ends up saving quite a bit of money. Once you've added those branches, now it's time to shape your tree, since you will have some towards the top that need to be shaved down a little bit, and at the very bottom towards the middle you will need some volume, so don't cut too much in the middle. This is how mine was looking. I was really impressed since the Dollar Tree trees are very small. I went in with this matte white spray paint from Krylon, and I am spraying down just to give it this flocked look and just very snowy and bright. We have used the spray snow from Dollar Tree. It does give a similar effect, but we have noticed that it does fade over time. Now that the tree is done, we are going to move on to the tree skirt. We are going to be using this decorative nautical rope. I don't know if you've seen it at your stores, but I have noticed that they have this smaller nautical rope. We couldn't find the thicker nautical rope, so let me know if you guys have noticed a change in yours at your stores. So basically we are going to go around the whole entire base of this tree. So make sure the hole at the bottom is large enough that you can take this out and pack it away so that you don't have to cut it off at the end of the season. Once you know how big the hole needs to be, just hot glue that. And then we are just going to keep going around the whole entire thing. Just add small amounts of hot glue. Do not try and go in with a ton of hot glue. I know it seems like it might need it. Please just don't. It will look very messy. You will end up with a big kind of sticky looking mess. Unless you want that look, I just would not recommend it. You will want it somewhat flexible in the end as well, because it will be draping over the base of the tree. This is how far one rope got me, so I am just hot gluing at the very end of that rope, just so that I can put the next rope on. And then I did add a third rope. Like I said earlier, I do wish that I could find the thicker nautical rope. I do think that it would have made it quite a bit bigger, but I do like this thinner nautical rope that they had. When you get to the end, just hot glue the side and then the bottom of the tree skirt, because you will want to tuck it in slightly just so that it gives it the nice round look. To finish off this tree skirt, we are going to be making tassels. I saw how to make tassels on Pinterest. I am very bad at making them. Please don't come after me. We are going to be using the same yarn that we did for the first project, and I'm going to be using this 2.5 inch cardboard and wrapping the yarn around about 30 times. And after we do that, I'm going to be taking the yarn off, tying a little knot at the very top, and then cutting the one end and then making it even with all the other tassels. If you have an easier way, please let me know in the comments. This, I think, is the easiest way, but I still struggled, so I don't know, maybe I'm just really not talented when it comes to tassel making. I made 16 tassels for the whole tree skirt, the easiest way that I could think to make sure that they were even without of course measuring out the whole entire thing and evenly spacing them, because that's of course just ridiculous. I basically just put them across from each other in fourths. Then I added a small amount of hot glue. And then in the middle of each of those tassels, add one more tassel. I felt like maybe I should have stopped here. I also don't know when to stop. I've said this in many videos, but of course I added one in between each of these ones. But let me know in the comments, should I have stopped one step before, or do you like in between each of these tassels? And then it's time to add it to your tree. If you have someone to help you, it does make it quite a bit easier. I unfortunately do not have eyes on my hands, so I can't see what's happening underneath the tree skirt.
Next, we're going to be creating this sign using a gift box from Dollar Tree. So whenever you guys are going out shopping this holiday season, make sure to look for these gift boxes and gift bags, because you can easily use them to create some very nice decor pieces, and it's only a few dollars. So what we're going to do to create our sign is I'm using some of these stakes from Walmart, and they're about $1.80 each. These are just some leftover pieces from another project. So whenever you guys do cut these, make sure if they're long enough to save the pieces, because you can always end up using them for something smaller like this. So what I'm doing is I'm just lining it up with one side and then marking it on the other side of the box. And then I'm going to use my other stake to draw a straight line across. Now you can also use that first stake as a template and mark it at the same length for our second wood stake. And then we'll go ahead and just cut those, and those will fit on one side. And then once we have those in place, we can go ahead and measure out the other sides. And all I'm using here is this jigsaw from Black & Decker. Really easy to use. You just want to make sure when you're using it on wood that you're pulling it all the way in and using it at the fastest speed and keeping it level with the wood. And then of course you can go through and sand some of those pieces off after. Once those pieces are cut, just go ahead and line them up with the box so that we can line up our other stake and see where we need to cut it. I like to do it this way, that way you don't have to really do any measurements, and it just makes it easier, and you can usually get a really good fit. Next, we can go ahead and apply our stain, and we've really been liking this early American stain from Minwax. And if you guys like a stain, I would suggest just buying this bigger container. It's only about $8 and it will last you a long time. I know some people use some stuff from Dollar Tree or watered down paint, but honestly, if you really like a certain stain, it's worth getting a big container. It will last you a long time. So after we have that stain, we can move on to gluing these down, and I'm just going to start with one side and work my way around by gluing each piece. And it really is that simple. There's not a lot to making these signs, but if you can go out and find a bag or a gift box that you really like, you can easily turn it into a wall decor piece or just a piece that will go on your table. And all you have to do is use a little bit of stain on this wood, a couple cuts, and there you go. A really cute sign. And you can do this with any kind of seasonal decor or just regular general home decor.
For this first project, we will be grabbing one of these boxes from Dollar Tree, and all we will need is the top of the box. You can use the bottom of this box for another project. We use the bottom of these boxes or a similar box for a different craft, and I will link the video right here. And then you will also need these 6-inch dowels from Dollar Tree. I pulled out 4 for the base of this lantern, and then I pulled out 4 more, but you will only need 2 more, so 6 total. So 4 of them will be going with the lid, but 2 of them we will be cutting in half, so just measure out 3 inches and then another 3 inches, and I use a set of wire cutters to cut it in half. It does look like it's hard to cut, but I was just trying to make sure that it doesn't splinter too much and crack it. They're not hard to cut at all, and you, just like I said, you just want to make sure that they don't splinter too much. And then after you cut them, you want to just sand them down slightly just so that they have a nice edge. So in the end, you should have 4 6-inch pieces and 4 3-inch pieces. Once those are all cut, I just went in with this early American stain and I stained everything. So after I did stain it all, I did notice that the stain and the glue did not work very well together. You will want the stain to set for a minute, so maybe an hour to dry before you use the hot glue, or just put it all together first and then stain it after so that it all sits securely. So what we're going to do is just go in on each corner and put the 6-inch dowels, and then we're going to take the 3-inch ones and go on top of them and angle them in towards the middle. I did end up staining one of these wood beads. They're linked in the description below, and I got them from Amazon. So what I did to attach these is just do a tiny bit of glue at the base and then just held it on until it dried. It did work for me, but you will want to hold it there for a little bit. We also do recommend using other types of glue, not just hot glue. So like a mixture of hot glue and E6000 or even wood glue. Once I had placed the third one, I decided to put the bead in. It was a little bit too hard once the 4th one was placed to put the bead in there, and it kind of kept coming apart. So once you have 3 of the 3-inch pieces in there, put the bead there and make sure that the holes are horizontal, and then you can place the 4th 3-inch piece. Then for just the little hoop that goes at the top, it's like a little ring, I just used this Dollar Tree floral wire. I wrapped it around a little paint bottle to make it circle, and then I'm spray painting it with Krylon matte black spray paint. When that is all dry, you can just go ahead and pull it apart slightly, put it over the bead and put it back in so it makes this cute little ring at the top of your lantern. You can put a tiny bit of hot glue inside and then slide it back in so that it is a little bit more secure. And then to decorate it, I got this candle. I believe it was from Michael's, and then always get a coupon since you know how they are. It's always, they have a 50% off here, 40% off there. And then we just got these picks from Walmart, and I just took them apart and placed the pine and the pine cones around it. I think it came out super cute. Let me know what you think in the comments below.
For our last project, we're going to be creating the wall art Christmas tree. So I already cut out this triangle. I was kind of testing this cork to see if I liked it, and I actually really like the texture. So I'm going to show you here how I use this cork as a stamp to go ahead and then create this Christmas tree. So the first thing that I'm doing is I'm going to measure out 2 inches, and that's going to be the width of our triangle. You want to make just a little mark at the 2-inch And then what we do is make another mark at the 1 inch, and that's gonna be the middle of our triangle. So what we'll wanna do now that we have our 1 inch and our 2 inch mark is we want to go up 2 inches now from that center point at 1 inch. And then that's gonna be the very top point of our triangle. Once we have that top part marked, I'm going to draw a straight line across because I'm actually going to be creating 2 triangles out of these dimensions. So in just a moment, you'll see how that works. And to finish this and get the 2 triangles, we're simply going to connect the dots. So you'll want to line up that top point with the 2 inch mark and draw a straight line. And then we'll want to flip it over and start at that top point and draw a line down to our starting point. And that should give you a really symmetrical triangle. And as you can see, we now have 2 that we can cut out. The reason why I wanted to do 2 is to give it a little bit more height when we actually go to stamp this. Once we have our triangles drawn out, we can go ahead and cut those out. Now this is an adhesive sheet of cork. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually take one triangle, peel the back off and stick it to the other triangle. And then once we have that complete, we're going to stick both of those together on this wood box. Now you can really use anything. I just happen to have this wood box and it worked out perfect for the stamp, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to align the bottom of the triangle with the bottom of the box, and then that way I can know exactly where I'm stamping. To create our art, I'm just going to be using this foam board from Dollar Tree, and we're going to start with a few measurements so we can try and get this centered. Now, I did mess up a little bit here on the measurements, and I'll let you know where exactly so that you can make sure that this is centered. But for the beginning part here, you want to measure up 8 inches from the bottom and make a few marks. That way we can draw a straight line, and that will be the bottom of our tree. Once we have those marked, we can draw our line straight across. Now you do want to do this very lightly, because once we're done with the stamps, we don't want to see those lines, and we want to go back and erase that as much as we can. If you do it too hard, you'll actually put a dent in the foam board and it will be hard to erase it completely. So that's why you can't see it when I'm doing this. This is where I messed up. I marked it 4 inches in on each side. You actually want to do 3 inches. So disregard that. You want to measure in 3 inches on each side, and then that's where we're gonna place our tree. So to start the painting, I'm using this Waverly chalk paint in the color ink, and I'm just gonna take a foam brush and paint this on. And then you can also dab it. If you just pour out a little bit on here, like you can see, you can just dab that stamp on there. But you wanna make sure you can go through with a little brush and cover up all of that. And the reason I'm using the cork is I think it gives it a really fun texture. As you can see here, a little bit of it is showing and a little bit of it is not going down. So when we go to our foam board, we want to start where we measured in 3 inches and then where our line is. And we're just gonna start by pressing this down firmly. And then I found that you could probably get 2 to 3 stamps before you needed to put more paint on. Of course, if you want it to be a little bit lighter, keep going. I think that having some of these darker and some of them lighter adds to it and gives it a little bit more character. And then for our first row, we're gonna do 7 of these triangles, and just try to line them up on that line that you drew at the beginning, and then line it up so that it's touching the next triangle. And we're just gonna repeat this process until we have the 7 triangles on our first row, and then moving up, we'll do 6 and then 5, all the way up until we have 1 for the very top of the tree. And while you're doing this, keep in mind, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. The whole point of this is to kind of give it an organic feel. So if some of these are off a little bit, don't worry about it. I know sometimes you look at something and you get a little stressed that it's not absolutely perfect, but that's what we want. We want it to have that character. And for the bottom part of this, the trunk of the tree, we are going to use 2 of these tumbling tower blocks that I glued together. Same thing, put a little bit of paint on it, and then we'll stamp it down like that. Once we have our tree complete, you have a couple options. You could leave it as is and it would be very minimal, modern look, or you can add a frame. I chose to do a frame. 2 reasons. I wanted a little bit more character and more of a boho feel, and I messed up at the beginning, so my tree would look really weird if I left it as is and it would be completely off center. So we don't want that, and what I'm doing is I'm taking 2 inches off of the bottom and 2 inches off of the top, and then a little bit off of the right side where I was off on my measurement. If you do the 3 inches though, you won't have to worry about that. It should be pretty centered. So if you want to make this smaller, you could just do the 2 inches off of the bottom and then the 2 inches off of the top, and it will make it a little bit smaller. I think proportionally it looks better this way instead of the full size foam board. And then what I did again is I just measured the 2 inches in a few different spots and then drew my line straight across. And then to cut foam board, I always like to use a utility knife or razor blade. I found that those work best for cutting this. I know sometimes it can be a little bit tricky, but I think if you use one of these, it'll work just fine. The last part is to connect our frame, and what I'm using is these wood stakes from Walmart. They're about $1.80 each, and the easiest way to measure this is to put it in one corner and then mark it at the very end of your foam board. And this allows you to get a very nice measurement without actually having to do anything with a measuring tape. And then as you saw, I'm just using that Black & Decker jigsaw to make the cuts. And then once we have the 2 longer parts cut, we can line up another piece in between there and mark it and then just cut it. Very easy if you do it this way. That way you don't have to work with any numbers or any actual measurements. And then to stain these, what I'm going to be doing is using Minwax wood stain in an early American stain and going over all of these. I try to wipe off a little bit of the stain so that it's not completely soaking the wood and gives it a very nice even color. After we've let our stain dry for a little bit, we can move on to gluing it down. I'm just using some hot glue. I like to put the glue on the foam board first and then lay down the wood on each side. The easiest way to do this to get a good fit is to start on one side and then work your way around. If you put the other side on that's opposite of that and then you try to glue these smaller pieces, sometimes the fit can be off just a little bit. So I would recommend starting with one side and then gluing these 2 smaller sides down and then finally finishing with the other opposite long side. And that's going to complete this project. It's very simple and very affordable. This only costs a few dollars between the foam board and the wood itself, but you can really create some high-end looking decor by using this method. We like to do a lot with these wood frames and foam board from Dollar Tree.
This project you will need 2 11 by 14 frames from Dollar Tree. All that you will need is the actual frame, so just take everything out. I would keep the glass just for any other future projects. You'll just want to pull these out. They just hold the glass and all the backing in. Just pull them out. Try and do it softly. It does pull little parts of the frame out sometimes, but since it's the back, it doesn't matter too much. Then I grabbed this ornament from Dollar Tree. I will be using soap and water to take off all of the glitter because I am going to be spray painting it with this matte black Krylon spray paint. For the greenery, I'm using these eucalyptus picks from Walmart. They were only 97 cents, and I really love how Walmart has all of their greenery and their flowers. After you've cut them all off, I used 2 for this frame, and then I'll be using 2 picks for the other frame. So I will be putting them on the bottom right corner on this frame and just arrange them kind of how you like. Instead of just cutting to the end where all of this is glued down, I am going to be showing you exactly how I put this on. We have just had comments of people saying that they want this. So if you want to just skip to where this is done, just skip forward probably a couple minutes. When you are doing this, just make sure to kind of make it look organic, like it's growing up the frame. Try and have some going towards the middle, towards the outside, and just try and make sure it is covering up where the other stems are and where you are hot gluing. And then for the other frame, we are going to be doing the same thing, but just for the other side, so the bottom left corner. Now that the star is dry, we are going to attach it with some Dollar Tree ribbon. Since it would hang a little sideways if I looped it through just the open space, I'm going to be folding it over the top, hot gluing it to itself. And then at the very end of the ribbon, we're kind of smashing it together just to make it smaller so that when we hot glue the top of the star to it, the ribbon isn't sticking out of the sides. And for our last project, we are going to make a tiered tray. I can't believe we have never made one of these throughout our whole time here on YouTube. So we are going to grab 1 pack of these burner covers from Dollar Tree, and they come with 2 covers. And then for the middle part connecting the 2, you can use one of the candlestick holders from Dollar Tree, but I'm just going to use one that we thrifted for only 75 cents. To make the tray just raise slightly, I'm going to be adding these pearl beads from Dollar Tree just to the bottom. This is my super scientific way of finding out where the middle is, so I'm just going around in random spots, and it was 10 inches, so I'm just marking at 5. And then just going 10 inches again, marking at 5, and just kind of where the group of dots is, I'm just guessing that's about the middle-ish, and that's where I'm going to be gluing the base of the candle holder. Now that I've found the middle-ish, this is where I'm gluing the candle holder. This method did work for me, but if you have a better method, I would definitely do that instead. Then I did the same thing for the top. I just measured it, and then about what the middle was, I just kept turning it and marking a dot so that I knew about where to hot glue the top of the candle holder. When that was finished, I went in with 2 coats of the Waverly chalk paint in white. Then you get to have so much fun with all the cute little decorations. And this is where I really wish I had a tiered tray the whole entire time. So Dollar Tree has tons and tons of ornaments that you can use to put on this tray. And then we also made this beaded garland forever ago. So I used a lot of ornaments from Walmart and from Dollar Tree. Go and get a bunch of them. They ranged from $1 to $3, and I was absolutely obsessed with all of them.
For this project, we're going to be using these cone forms from Dollar Tree, and I've got one bigger one and two smaller ones. And then I'm going to be spray painting these with the matte black spray paint. They are dark green, so it's kind of hard to tell the difference. So you may be able to get away with it without even spray painting it, but I wanted to make sure that I had that true black color on there. And then I'm going to use these fairy lights from Dollar Tree to wrap around it following that spiral. Now, I did see someone post on Facebook asking what you could use this form for, and I thought it would be absolutely perfect and beautiful just the way it is. So I wanted to show you guys how easy this project is. If you wanted to, you could add more to this and customize it, but if you're going for a very sleek, modern, minimalist look, you don't have to do anything at all. And you don't even have to add the lights, but I thought it was a nice touch, especially if you're having it lit up at night or something like that. I would definitely do the lights, but I wanted to show you guys a very simple idea with just 3 of these cone forms from Dollar Tree.
Now we are going to start on these ornaments. So I just got a clear ornament from Dollar Tree. I spray painted it all white just so that whatever you saw that wasn't covered, it just wasn't so noticeable. And then I went in with this caulk from Dollar Tree, and then also I grabbed this cake decorating kit. I'm going to be using this tip that you see here, and I just am going to be putting all of the caulk into the bag. I have never decorated a cake personally, but I assume this is how you would do it with frosting, so I just folded it over so it wouldn't be so messy. I cut the tip off of this, and then I just squeezed all of it out just as close as I could to the top. And like I said before, I have never ever done this before. I have watched Cake Boss a few times, but please, please, please do not judge me on this. Basically, I just squeezed a little bit out and then I just pulled it away just to give it a really cool texture. And then I just did this all the way around the whole entire thing. I did end up dropping the first one, and I definitely did not say any bad words, but I would recommend doing just some kind of hook or something that you can hold onto at the top so that it is very easy to hold onto just in case you do happen to drop it. And then I grabbed 2 smaller ornaments from Dollar Tree, spray painted them white, and then added the floral wire just so that I could hold onto it. And then I changed the tip just so it was like a little bit smaller so that I could add small dots to the ornament. And then I'm just going to be adding just little dots around the whole entire thing. This one I didn't like as much, but I still thought it gave a nice texture to the ornament. Since these do have all different kinds of tips, you can do really cool designs since you will probably be a lot better than me at this. And once it dries, you can spray paint them any color you would like. Or you can add food coloring or paint directly to the caulk and have a more muted color for your ornament. For our final ornament, we are going to start with these book rings and this nautical rope. The nautical rope, you will need to untangle all of it so that the 3 strands are just all separated. Once you have those separated, I just needed one strand. I cut each of my pieces at 6 inches long. And then what you're going to do is fold it in half and fold it over the book ring, and then pull the other end through the hoop. Hopefully you can see visually on here what I am doing, and then you're just going to do that all the way around, and it is super easy. I do love how these turned out. Once you have all of those on there, I just took a Dollar Tree cap brush, and you're going to brush out all of the strands. And then cut it all the way around just so that it is symmetrical. The beads that I am using I got off Amazon, and there is a link for that in the description below. And then I'm just using some yarn that I have here on hand. I'm cutting that just to use so that it can loop around the tree. I added a little bit of tape at the end just to try and help the beads go on just a little bit easier. Then to add this, you will just flip it over and tie it onto the back. Make sure that where you tied it is on the back. Cut it as short as you can, then flip it back over and just adjust everything just so it looks nice. To get the yarn to stay in this position and make sure it doesn't fall, I use just a matte clear coat spray paint sealer type thing. You can use a starch spray or anything similar. Some people even use hairspray. Let me know if you've used something like that and if it works for you.
For this project, we are going to start with using these rectangle wood planks from Dollar Tree and some early American stain from Minwax, and I was super excited for this. I loved how this project turned out. Probably one of my favorites that I've done for Christmas this year, and we're going to be creating that little house countdown calendar using just a few supplies from Dollar Tree. So the first thing that we want to do after we have these stained, we want to go ahead and start gluing these together to build our house. So I'm just going to start by laying one of these rectangle pieces down on the table, and then I'm going to glue both of these vertical sides on. And then since I'm using hot glue, just give it some time to dry in place there. If you're wanting something steadier, I would definitely use something like a wood glue or maybe E6000. After we have those vertical pieces, we can glue on this top piece. So I just ran a line of glue on top of those two pieces and then laid this flat on there and adjusted it and then held it in place for the glue to dry. And then once we have the bottom part of our house, we can move on to the roof, and we're going to use the last two pieces of that pack. And the easiest way I found to get this to work is hold them together in kind of the position that you want them to be, run some glue along there and allow it to dry. That will hold those together, but you can actually still move those a little bit and then run a line of glue on each end right here, and then you can simply hold this in place where you need to. That worked really easy instead of trying to balance them and glue them on one at a time. So I would definitely try and do it just how I did it there. And it should look really clean. You shouldn't have very much glue coming out anywhere, but what I did decide to do is just run a little bit more on the inside, just a quick line there to strengthen that on the seam. Now that we have the house part done, we can move on to our little tiles that are going to have the numbers on them. And of course, Dollar Tree likes to make things difficult for us by not doing just like an even number of inches. This was just a little over 7 inches long. So what I did was I went to 3.5 inches and marked just a little bit past that to try and get as center as I could. And then I drew a line across there. That's where we'll be cutting. Now I'm going to be using a jigsaw, and since we want these to be just about as even as possible, go ahead and follow that line right down the middle, and these should turn out to be just about the same size. After we have those cut, you can use a little bit of sandpaper to smooth those edges out, and then to try and get as close to the center for our hole, these were a little bit less than 3 inches, and so I went to 1.5 inches and then just came back a little bit and tried to get it as center as possible. And then after you mark it there, I just used a drill to go ahead and make that hole. And then once we have our first one, we can use that as a template for all of our other tiles by marking it here if you wanted to and then drilling it, or you can simply hold that tile up to it and drill through the same hole, which is really, really easy to do. Once we have all of our tiles cut out, I'm going to use this Waverly chalk paint in the color ink to go ahead and paint all of those black. And once we have all of those painted, we can move on to putting our numbers on them. Since these numbers are black, I'm going to use this matte white spray paint from Krylon. Just lay this down flat and spray the entire sheet until those are a nice white color. While we're waiting for those numbers to dry, we can move on to adding our little hooks. And I just bought a pack of these little suction cups, and I'm going to actually just use the hook part here. And I took a couple of these needle nose pliers and held it on both ends, and then just took it and bent the top part down so that we can glue that on. Once we have 2 of these hooks bent, we can move on to gluing them to the house. And an easy way to get them to look good once we're hanging the tiles is I found to hold your ruler to the very edge and then mark 2 inches in. So do it on both sides, and you'll just want to make a little mark 2 inches in, and that's where we'll glue our hook so that when we have the tiles hanging, there's a good space in between them and then on the outside of them. And since we're not gluing the hook right on the edge where we marked it, I just wanted to draw a straight line in a little ways so that once I actually went to glue these, I could just look at that line and line it up with that and glue it down. And then I'm just going to use a little bead of hot glue, place it right on that line, and then hold the hook down on there. And the easiest way to line it up is glue it right in the middle of that line and then line up the front of the hook with the front of the house. So what you don't want to do is glue it down right on the edge, right in the front of the house, because then those hooks are going to stick out in front and our tiles will be hanging out there, and I just don't think that would look quite as good. Once our numbers have dried, we can move on to placing these on the tiles. The cool thing about the spray paint is you could paint these any color that you wanted to. So if you wanted a different color for your tile, you could do that, and then a different color with the numbers. However you want to do it, there's a lot of different options. And then to center this, I just kind of looked at the hole that we drilled and tried to line the number up with that to get it as centered as possible. So if you're doing it the same way I did, you'll need 12 total of these tiles, and you'll need 2 number 1s and 2 number 2s. So if you have 11 days or 22 days, you'll need 2 of those tiles. I just think it would be easiest to put them on like number 4, number 5, paint the back, and then put another number 1 and number 2 on those. That way you have 2 of each. The other option that you could do is take some chalkboard paint 2 tiles, and then you can just simply erase and change the numbers each day, and you wouldn't need all of the different tiles. And to finish everything up, we can just go ahead and hang these on here. They should just slide on, not really any problems there. And then the other cool thing that I loved how this is there's plenty of room that you can decorate this with different items. So I decided to take a little pick. This happened to be one, I believe, from Walmart. You could use Dollar Tree stuff, one of these trees that we painted white, and then another little sign from Walmart. But you can do a ton of different things and decorate it to your style. And I love how this turned out.
This next DIY is so easy, and we love putting these super easy and cute DIYs in our videos. We grabbed this little reindeer and this tree from Dollar Tree, and all we're going to be doing is taking out the little candle holder in the reindeer and also in the tree. In the reindeer it was super easy. In the tree it was a little bit harder, but you can definitely get it out with a set of needle nose pliers. Once they were both out, we decided to go in with this metallic oil rub bronze spray paint. You can go in with gold or white, and it would look so adorable just to have these cute little figurines in your decor.
For this project, we're going to be creating the stocking hangers, and this was a really fun project to do, so hopefully you guys are excited about this one. What we're going to use is these 3 snowflakes from Dollar Tree, and you want to go ahead and remove all of the tinsel, I believe that's what it's called, from these snowflakes. All we want are the forms that these came on. So as you can see here, it's a little bit of a pain, but you just want to unravel that all the way around, and then you'll have the 3 frames left over, and that's what we're going to use for this project. Once we have all of that removed, what you want to do is actually remove them from each other. You definitely don't want to do this with all of them connected. And so I'll just cut off these 2 little tabs where they connect, and then what I'm going to be using is this wire cutter to go around the entire form. And what we want to do is cut off all of these little tabs that the tinsel was wrapped around. Those are just not going to work for what we're doing. We want to keep this very sleek and minimalistic, and those will not look good. So go ahead and cut all of those little pieces off with the wire cutter. And then for the middle parts, it was a little bit hard to get to it with the wire cutter, so then what I ended up using was a razor blade. Once you have all those cut off, as you can see, it looks a lot better, just way more clean, and it's going to be perfect for our project. So I'm using that matte black paint from Krylon. Go ahead and put a couple coats on there, and then while that's drying, we can move on to these boxes. So this is where we're going to glue those snowflakes onto, but what we want to do is go ahead and remove the lid. You don't need that. Go ahead and save that for another project. And I'm using this Early American stain from Minwax, and you want to go ahead and stain all the way around it and then the bottom. You don't have to do the inside because we're going to actually flip this over and the bottom will become the top. So don't worry about the inside. After we have those all stained, we can move on to add in the hooks. And these are from Walmart. They were, I think, about $7 and you get 6 of them. So you can definitely use the command hooks from Dollar Tree. However, whenever we can, we always like to try and upscale it a little bit, make it look a little better. And where these equal out to just a little over $1 each, I definitely think it's worth it. It'll give it a much cleaner, higher end look when you're done. Right here, I'm just trying to get as close to center as possible. So I measured halfway between the width and the height of the box, and it's not going to be perfect because Dollar Tree boxes tend to be a little bit different each time. So just try and get it as close as you can, and then I held up the hook here to make a couple marks with my pencil where the screws will go. Now these were a little bit tough to get in just with a handheld screwdriver, so sometimes you can, just with enough force, hand screw these in. I don't know if it was the screws or what, but it was a little bit more difficult. So if you have a power drill, you can either drill a hole and then put it in, or if you have like a screwdriver attachment, you should be able to just screw them in easily. But it was a little bit difficult if you're just trying to use it with a handheld screwdriver. But all you need to do then after you have those marks is go ahead and screw those in and connect the hook. Now they will be sticking out on the underside of this, so what I did was add a little bit of hot glue on there. That way we don't have those sharp points. The next part is to add a little bit of weight since these are going to be holding stockings. I just glued these little glass beads all around the inside, and then I would recommend adding more weight to the back side of it since the weight will be coming from the front. You want more weight on the back. Hopefully that makes sense. And then finally, to complete this project, we're going to take our snowflakes that we painted and we're going to go ahead and add just a little bit of hot glue to the bottom of this and then hold it upright and allow that to dry. And then after that was in place, I added just a little bit more hot glue to the back side of that to keep it upright. And that will complete it. Another really simple project, but I absolutely love the result of this.
For this first project, I got these foam balls from Dollar Tree. They come in a few different sizes and I think they are a pretty new item because I haven't seen them in the Crafter Square section before until just recently. And then you will also need some buffalo check fabric. I got this one from, I believe, Walmart. I got it last year. For the foam balls, the easiest way that I have found to do this is to grab one of these skewers from Dollar Tree and hot glue twine at the end and then just stick the skewer through the foam ball and then just pull all the way through and then it will be on the twine. I did this for 6 of them. I would make this longer if you are doing a garland or wrapping it around a tree. The measurements that I went off of are 5 inches by 6.5 inches for all of the rectangles. If you are looking for similar fabric, I know people have been able to find this type of fabric at Dollar Tree. I have never personally been able to find it there, but there's also usually a spare fabric section from just people who had extra pieces at Walmart, and that's where I get a lot of fabric from. Once you get that all cut, you will just want to wrap the long end all around the ball and you will want to hot glue it and then just work on one side at a time. You will probably have to trim it just slightly just to make everything fit. All I did was fold in all of the sides at one at a time and then just hot glued, would press it down with the end of the scissors and then would just keep moving forward, hot glue, press it down with the scissors, hot glue, press it down with the scissors, and then did the same for the other side. This would be absolutely adorable wrapped around a tree. This would make a very cute garland or just anything like that. Let me know in the comments what you would use this for.
To begin, we're going to be using 3 of these wood stakes from Walmart. So if you have leftovers, feel free to use that. If you're using a new one, what you're going to need to do is measure out 9.5 inches. So what we want to do is take one of those stakes and we want 2 pieces that are 9.5 inches. So go ahead and mark that and cut those. Now, like I said, if you have these pieces, you know how much I like to use these wood stakes. I think they look really good on these projects and they're only about $1.80 each. So if you have some extras from previous projects, make sure to use that up, but you can always start with a fresh stake. To cut our wood pieces, I'm going to be using this Black & Decker jigsaw. It's really easy to use on these small wood pieces, so go ahead and line it up, make sure that it is flush with the wood, and pull that trigger all the way down. Once we have our two 9.5 inches cut, I'm going to take one of those pieces and I'm going to mark it right in the middle. And that's just for a little bit later so that we know where to line up our other wood pieces. Once we have that first piece marked in the middle, we can grab our second piece, and this one we actually need to make 1 inch smaller. So the first thing that we're gonna do here is you wanna cut off 1 inch on the end. I didn't actually show this in the video, so cut 1 inch off the end, and then you wanna take the 8.5 inches that are left, and you wanna mark it right where I did at 4.25. So you should have 2 equal pieces that are 4.25 and then 1 small piece that is 1 inch. So you can see those 2 4.25 pieces will fit on each side of our full 9.5 inch long, and then you should have this 1 inch square piece. So the wood itself is about 1 inches thick, and that's why you should have this 1 by 1 inch square. And then we're going to use that as a template. If you have some extra wood, or if you're just using a new stake, you want to mark 3 more spots. So we want to have a total of 4 of those 1 inch squares. Once those pieces are cut, I'm just going to show you an example of how this is going to all come together for the base. We won't actually put it together right now, we'll save that for later. I just wanted to give you an idea. For the wood pieces that are going to go vertical and create the height of our lantern, we want to use a full piece of this wood. So they measure about 34 inches long before it starts tapering down to that point. And to utilize as much of the wood as possible and save ourselves money, we're going to split that in half. So you want to measure it and mark it at 17 inches and then again at 34 inches. That way we can get 2 pieces of wood out of this. If you don't have any leftover wood, you will need about 3 of these stakes. One of them will be used for creating the base, and then 2 of them will be used for the vertical wood pieces. After we've cut all those pieces, we're going to move on to staining, and I'm using this early American stain from Minwax to go ahead and go over all the pieces. After they're cut, you should have 4 of those long wood pieces. We should have 1 of those 9.5 inch pieces, 2 of those 4.25 pieces, and then 4 of these small 1 inch squares. And the reason I like to stain first before gluing is sometimes the glue, if you have it on a piece and you try to stain it, it won't stain where the glue is. So I always try to do the staining first. Okay, once we have all the pieces cut and stained, we can move on to assembling the base. So you want to take that longer piece and flip it upside down, whichever side you want to be the top side, just make sure you flip it upside down and glue on one of those 1 inch squares just like that. And then we're going to do that again on the other side. Now I would highly recommend that if you're doing this project to use a stronger glue. Maybe E6000, wood glue, and you can even use some staples for different parts of this project, but it will make it a lot sturdier. It works really well for what we're doing time purposes with the hot glue since it dries so fast. We want to make sure that we can get these videos out for you guys, but if you're recreating it, I would definitely use something stronger. Once we've completed that longer piece, we can move on to our shorter pieces. Now remember, these are the ones that are going to intersect with that long piece. So you only want to glue a 1 inch square on each piece. So do the same thing, flip that upside down, grab one of the squares and then glue it on there. When you're gluing this, if you're using hot glue, I like to use quite a bit on there and then just put a little bit where that crease is like I did there, just a quick line, and that will add quite a bit of strength to it. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other piece. Once you let the hot glue or your glue dry, we can move on to connecting it with the longer wood piece. So this is why we made that little mark earlier on that piece, so we can kind of get an idea of where center is. So you just want to line it up where you made that line earlier and glue it down. So I like to put glue on the end right here and then just connect it with that longer wood piece. And then you'll want to hold it there, give it time to glue because it's going to be a little bit unstable. What we'll do here in a second is we'll put a little bit of a wood piece underneath to make sure that we're giving that added strength. To add that support, I'm just using a craft stick from Dollar Tree. I went ahead and cut it down to make it smaller, and then I stained it with the early American stain so that it would all match. Now I went ahead and put quite a bit of hot glue on here, and if you can get into those little creases, that's perfect. And then go ahead and press firmly on that craft stick, give it a minute to dry, and that should actually add a lot of strength so that it's not wobbly or weak. For the part that's going to hold the vase and then that top cap part, I wanted to give you a couple options in case you couldn't find one. First would be this craft box and then this gift box. So this one you'll have to cut the string off of it, but either option will work, and I'm just using the lid. Now if you want to save some money, you could just use one of these, use the lid, and then cut the base to match that, so you're saving some money and you'd only have to buy one of these. And then what you want to do is, I'm using a matte black color from Krylon, and we're going to go ahead and spray paint both of those. And then one of them we're going to use for this base to hold the vase, and then the other one will be used for that top cap. And then I'm just putting a hefty amount of hot glue here on the wood base, and then go ahead and line it up. I just kind of eyeballed it to center and then line it up and press firmly on that. I wanted to add a little bit more to that top part and give it a handle, so I'm using these book rings, and I'm going to go ahead and spray paint this black as well, and then we'll glue that on the top. So this next part is a little bit tricky. What you want to do is you want to apply just a little bit of hot glue, not a ton, and you don't want to glue these straight down. If you glue them straight down, then it's going to be hard to move them around. But if you put just enough glue on there and glue them at an angle, you want to try and get it as close to an angle as it's going to be in the end where you connect the top piece. But if you glue it at an angle, you'll actually be able to move these around a little bit even after the glue's dried, so that we can align that top cap piece and connect all of these. So just kind of do what I'm doing here. You want to make sure that you're holding them in place long enough to let that glue dry enough to where it will hold these up at a vertical angle. Now this next part took me a couple attempts to make sure I got it right. What you want to do is you want to put quite a bit of hot glue or whatever glue you're using right on the ends of these wood pieces, and then I actually let a little bit of it drip down the side as well, since when we put this top piece on, it's going to be gluing it on the top of the wood pieces and then on the side. And then what you want to do is just push these together so that they fit right inside of that. And then once they're inside of it, you can kind of move them around and pull them out if you need to a little bit, but you can make some little adjustments to make sure it lines up correctly and that it has a solid hold. The last part to finish up our lantern is to add in our glass vase. So there's two different sizes of these vases, a smaller and a larger one. We're using the smaller one from Dollar Tree, and then a 6-inch candle from Michael's. Now another thing that you could do is some fairy lights. I think especially if you're going for like a Christmas theme lantern, fairy lights would look really pretty in this. So either option, fairy lights or candles, I think would look fantastic. And here's 3 different options that I think would work perfect. This one is a little bit more of a boho modern look. And then this one we decorated for Christmas. I thought it looked amazing with the pine. And then this look here, a farmhouse. So you can do a ton of different options with this lantern.
This next project is so easy. Just grab 2 of these nutcrackers from Dollar Tree. I went in with the matte black spray paint from Krylon. Then we are just going to take off the beard and all of the hair, since that just won't look good when we spray paint it. The hair was a little bit hard to get out just on the sides, but if you use some needle nose pliers, they come right out. And this is what they look like finished.
For our first project, we're going to be creating the black candle holder. So you're going to need a couple of these vases from Dollar Tree, and we're going to be spray painting them this matte black spray paint from Krylon. As you can see, it gives it a very sleek black color. And then also what you will need is 2 of these Dollar Tree picks, and we're just going to be using the little pine part here. So just pull that out. The rest of it you can use for other projects, but we'll only need these little parts. To attach our pine to the candle holders, I'm going to be using this suede, and I believe I got it from Joann. Now, I did pick it up quite a while ago, so I can't remember exactly how much it was, but I want to say maybe around $5, and there's quite a bit that comes with it. And then also what I'm going to be doing to make it a little bit thinner is cutting it in half so that we can wrap it around the top of our candle holder. And for these leather rolls, I haven't seen anything like this at Dollar Tree, so I'm curious if you guys have seen like a suede or faux leather roll that you could buy at Dollar Tree. Let me know, because I'd love to pick it up. I just haven't been able to find it yet. So I typically look at like a big hobby store or Walmart, maybe even Amazon online. So to attach this, what I'm doing is putting the rubber band around the pine to keep it in place, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this leather suede around to the back. I'm not tying it or anything. I wanted to keep it very simple and sleek, so just one strap around to the back and then glue that down. And then after that's dried, what you can do is cut off the excess and then use it for our other bottle. And this is a really simple DIY that you guys can do, and it just costs a few dollars, but I think it looks absolutely perfect if you're going for kind of that modern boho look. And then to finish it off, we're going to use these little candles. I believe you can get a pack of, I think 4 or 6 from Walmart for just a couple dollars, so perfect for this project.
This last DIY is super fun to make. So I started out with this foam board that I got from Dollar Tree. It is cut down just a little bit so that I could fit it on our crafting table. And then also these 12-inch dowels from Dollar Tree. We will just need 4 of them for the frame. So what I did here was just measure out the frame. What I did was quite a bit harder than what you should do. The piece of foam board that you need to cut needs to be 12 inches wide and 11.5 inches tall. Once I had my measurements, I went in with a razor. Sometimes with the foam board, it can catch, and with this you will want clean lines, so it is easy to go in and just slightly graze the top so you're almost making a little mark, and then go in again like a deeper cut, and that's how I got super clean lines on this foam board. Now that that is cut, we are going to set it aside and focus on these 12-inch dowels. Once again, we're going to be using this Early American stain, which has been our favorite lately. And then we are going to hot glue it after they are stained onto the sides of the frame. So the 12-inch side will fit perfectly on the dowel, and that's the side that I started with first. And then I went to the next side, which it will hang off the sides slightly. I personally haven't seen anyone do frames with the dowels from Dollar Tree. I know someone probably has out there, but I love how minimalist and modern it looks. I personally just want to paint everything black. I feel like you could make the most pretty, minimal, cute signs using this technique. So the dowels, the two sides that are the 12-inch, the dowels will fit perfectly all the way across. And then the two sides that are 11.5-inch, they will stick over. So you will have a frame that looks very cute and has the perfect overlapping sides. When that was done, since I don't personally have a Cricut, which you could have if you enter the giveaway, I will be using these stickers from Dollar Tree. I cut out each individual one because I didn't know how I wanted it to lay out. So for the middle S, I measured out, since it's 11.5 inches down, I measured out 5 3/4 down. So I knew about where the S should be, and then I kind of eyeballed the rest. Since they are stickers, you can pull them up and rearrange them. It saved me a few times because they weren't straight. I do love how this turned out. I think it came out really cute. And I love how the stickers looked on here. And it's all Dollar Tree, which is a huge plus. On the two other sides that are in the middle, you can measure out the middle again, so the 5 3/4, but it didn't help me out too much. Once you have just the very middle letter, it is easy just to kind of eyeball it from there. Also, another tip while you're doing this, don't stick it down all the way. I push just kind of in the middle. I didn't stick it down all the way across the whole letter, just in case I did need to pull it up and make minor adjustments.
For this vase, we're going to be using this 11-foot nautical rope from Dollar Tree. This is that white rope's a little bit different than the other one. And the first thing that we want to do here is take the little piece of tape off of each end, and then we're going to actually unravel this whole thing so that we have the 3 separate strands. Once we have all these strands separated, we're going to braid these together to get a little bit of a unique look, or just more character instead of just a rope when we wrap this around the vase. So I just tied mine in a little knot. You can also just use a little bit of hot glue to glue those ends together, and then you will need something to hold it down as you're braiding it. Once you have that secured, you can start braiding this, and you want to go ahead and braid the entire rope. If you have someone that can help you with this to kind of control the back part from getting tangled up, that will definitely make this easier since it's such a long rope. And then here in a second, I'll show you, we don't actually need to use the entire braided part, but I would recommend just braiding all of it first, and then at the end, you can use the remaining part for the top of the vase. And then right here, just put a little bit of hot glue to connect the ends. Like I said earlier, you can do this at the very beginning instead of tying the knot. But if you tie the knot, just undo that and then glue it right here. And then that is going to be our starting point for where we start wrapping this around the vase and gluing it down. And just so the threads weren't going everywhere, I waited for the hot glue to cool down a little bit, and then I just pinched that together so it was nice and tight. Now that we have our rope ready, we can move on to gluing it onto our actual vase. So run a little line of glue on the bottom there, and I'm just using hot glue. That should work just fine for this project. I don't think you guys need anything stronger. And then I would wrap it around a little bit more and then put some glue all the way around till you get to where you started. And then once we get to where we started, what we want to do is just move up a little bit from there. So as you work your way all the way around, you'll see we'll meet up with the starting point right here. And then just glue it up into that point and then wrap it up a little bit around that, and then you can start your second row. Really simple. That's what I love about this project, is pretty straightforward, easy project, but I think the end result is very elegant and beautiful. When you get close to finishing up the braided part of this project, what you want to do is keep in mind where you started. So You want to glue this all the way around to where you originally started, since you're going to see those seams, and then we want to cut it off right there. And then this is where you want to unravel the remaining amount that's been braided, because we're going to use those 3 strands to finish off the top of this vase. Now that we have the 3 separate strands, we're going to use these to finish off our design for the vase. So instead of doing the braid all the way up, this just gives it a little bit more character. And what we want to do is start in the back where we have our seams. That's one thing that you may think of doing, is just wrapping around all the way until you run out of the string. But to make this look as good as possible, you want to keep in mind where all of those seams are. So by wrapping it around to the seams and cutting it off, it's going to give it that really crisp, polished look. So this should have a little bit of extra string left over once you get around to the back side, as you can see here. So you just want to cut off the remaining amount and then glue that down, and then you're going to do that with the other 2 strings as well. And just to give you guys a few ideas while you're making this, if you wanted to, since they do have the 2 different nautical robes, they have this one and the one that's a little bit more of a brown or tan color, you could use some of that for maybe half of it or a third of it, and then this for the remaining amount. There's a lot that you could do to kind of give it a different feel. I was going for more of a neutral kind of boho feel for this, so I went with just the one single white color. You could also add some different paints if you wanted to kind of add in some tribal designs. There's really a lot that you could do. That's why I love working with this rope. But I just want to give you guys a few other ideas while you're making this. And to finish this up, we're going to use a couple picks from Walmart. Now these were only 98 cents each. So anytime we can, we always love to take it up just a little bit, and the Dollar Tree products aren't always the greatest, and if you can get away with a similar price but a much higher look, I would definitely recommend it.
For our first project, we're going to start out with this floral wire from Dollar Tree. It doesn't matter if you get the gold color or this red color. And then I got this wooden star from Dollar Tree as well. This one does have curved edges, but there is one that has more pointy edges. This is just the one that I had on hand, but you can use either one. And then I just went around the whole entire star, tracing it with the wire. I did notice it was a lot easier if you kind of tape it down while you're going along the whole thing with the wire. It just helps keep the wire down so that you can continue to go along the rest of the star with the wire. This is how I got kind of a perfect star shape with the wire. I did try to use a little bit harder wire instead, and I just couldn't get it to work. So this is the only thing that I could get to work from Dollar Tree, but I do love how it turned out in the end. Once you get all the way around where we started, we're just going to go overlap just a little bit, grab some wire cutters, and just clip that part right there. I originally tried to hot glue it together, but it just wouldn't stick, so I went in with just some electrical tape, and that ended up working perfectly to kind of join the 2 wire ends together. We will be covering this little section up, so it won't matter that you will see the tape. Once that is covered, I went in with this matte black spray paint from Krylon and spray painted the whole thing. To finish off the star, we'll be using this pick from Walmart, and to hang it, we're going to be using this ribbon from Dollar Tree. I just looped it around the top of the star, and then you can measure out how long you want it to hang. Once I had that measured, I just tied it in the bow, and after tying this, I did make the bow and the loop a little bit longer since I made this portion a little bit too short. And then just go ahead and make the ends prettier. Now for the pick, we would just be using the top portion of it, so I grabbed my wire cutters again and just took off the pine cone and the pine. Then I just grabbed a small piece of wire and I flipped the whole star around, and then I'm going to be going around the wire part of the pick and attaching it to the star. This will help it stay a lot better instead of just using hot glue. And then to help it not flip around, use a little bit of hot glue. Because it is an asymmetrical wreath, it will slightly tilt to whatever side that you have the weight distributed on. So you will want to put something sticky on that side underneath the pine cone. So I used the little pop-up dots from Dollar Tree, and that really helped it stick to the wall so that it didn't tilt. For this first project, I grabbed 2 frames from Dollar Tree. It doesn't matter too much on the size, just as long as one is going horizontally and one is vertical. If you can get both black frames, then this is going to save you some time, but if not, you will want to take out everything on the white frames because we'll be spray painting it black, and take out everything but the glass on the second frame. For the frame that is not black, I just went in with this matte black spray paint from Krylon. For the larger vertical frame, I am taking out all the tabs that hold in the cardboard and the glass. Once those are out, you can go ahead and put the glass back in. We will just be hot gluing that back in to the frame. Make sure you put a decent amount of hot glue and make sure it connects to the glass and the frame just so that it holds onto the frame. And then also try and use your hot glue gun to kind of spread it on so that it looks nice and clean. Once that is dry and secure, you can go ahead and flip your frame over. It should look nice and pretty and clean. I grabbed these metal words from Dollar Tree. We are going to be using the believe and the peace sign. There is another joy sign, but I decided not to use that for this project. I will be spray painting both of them also with this matte black spray paint. Once the signs were dry, I grabbed this dry erase marker so I can measure out the middle, since I can just wipe this away after, which is super nice since we are working on glass. For this one, I did try and use hot glue. I would not recommend doing that. For the second one, I did use these little sticky dots instead, and that worked quite a bit better. Now that the other frame is dry, we're going to do the same thing and pull off all of these little tabs. Then put the glass inside and hot glue all the way around. These little, I think they're called pop-up dots I got from Dollar Tree. They worked really well for this project. I would use this instead of the hot glue. The hot glue dries way too quickly, and for some reason it doesn't stick to the glass very well. So I would use this instead on the glass. Plus you can adjust it if you don't get it quite in the middle or it is a little uneven. If this is a little too minimal or basic, you can definitely add some greenery. We got this greenery from Walmart for only 98 cents. You can add it at the base, or you can add this really cute garland that we got from Dollar Tree.
For this project, we're going to be creating a very simple but absolutely beautiful centerpiece using this tray from Dollar Tree. We're going to start by painting it gloss white. I'm using this Krylon spray paint, and then we're going to use 3 of these little plastic bowls from Dollar Tree and go ahead and spray paint them in a gold spray paint from Rust-Oleum. While we're waiting for those pieces to dry, we can move on to creating the wood frame that's going to go all the way around our plastic tray, and I'm using one of the bigger packs of the tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree. Now you would probably need 2 of the smaller ones, so if you can find a bigger pack, that's going to work out better for you and be a little bit cheaper. But to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start gluing these pieces together and create a long line of these. And I'm using just a little bit of hot glue in between these. If you want a little bit better hold, you could definitely use a wood glue for these. You're going to have a little bit more of a drying period for that. That's why we like to use the hot glue. And to get these as straight as possible, I like to push them together and then put them down on a flat surface like this table, press it down so that you can try and get those to be as straight as possible. So as you can see here, we have our tray that's been painted white, and I'm just going to hold this up to the tray, and then I'm going to go all the way down to the end there with the tumbling tower blocks. Once we have that first row complete, we can move on to the end piece here, and I just kind of put it together to see how it would fit, and actually fits really well. So what you end up using is 20 blocks for the longer sides and then 7 blocks for the 2 end sides, the shorter sides, and that should fit right in between those 2 longer pieces. And then to add some color to this, we're just using this early American stain from Midwax, and go ahead and stain all those pieces together. Now that we have all of our pieces painted and stained, we can move on to assembling everything. So I'm going to start by gluing these bowls onto the tray. So I'm just trying to line up these 2 little dots that you can see on the tray and the bottom of the bowl to get that as close to center as possible. So I put some glue on both the tray, and I ended up putting it on the bowl. And then I found if you lay it down flat like this and then put some glue on both the bowl and the tray, and then push your finger in the middle of the bowl, since there's a little bit of a lip, if you push down there, it helps the glue to stick and hold that better. Once we have our bowls glued in there, we can move on to gluing this wood frame around there. Now, you don't necessarily have to glue this to the tray itself. It should fit pretty snugly, but if you wanted to, you could probably remove it and just lift the tray out of there. But if you wanted to glue it all together, you could, after you glued the wood pieces together, then glue it to the tray. So I put a couple little bits of glue around the wood and the tray just to secure it all together. So I started with one side and I glued the 2 end pieces to that, and then I'm going to take the other long piece and then just glue it onto that. And then, like I said, right here, it's not even on it, it just kind of slides over the tray. So if you wanted to, you could leave it like that instead of gluing it to the actual tray itself. And here's where I just added a couple beads of glue on the sides to glue it all together, just to give it a little bit more structure and strength so that when I'm moving it around, it's not sliding in or out. And next I'm adding these little candles, and these are from Walmart. You can get a pack of, I think it's like 6 of these for just a couple dollars. A really good price, and they fit perfectly in there. And then also this pick is from Walmart as well in their Christmas section. You guys know how we love to go there and pick up some of these picks. These are only 98 cents, and then I'm just going to be cutting these little stems off of here and placing them around each bowl. And then I saved the actual berry part for last, just so that I could get it full, and then I could place the berries kind of where I thought they looked good.
This project, I will be making it harder than it needs to be. You can definitely just use the frames instead of what I'm going to be doing, but I do think it's worth it, and I think it looks super pretty in the end. You will need 4 of these 5x7 frames from Dollar Tree. and all you will need is the actual glass. I did find with this particular frame, this glass was a little bit better than some of the other glass that I've worked with from Dollar Tree. This is one of the first things that you can see that I made a lot harder. I would probably not do what I'm showing here. Instead, just hold the two pieces of glass up like I'm doing here and then just run the hot glue in the corner. Don't put the hot glue and then put the glass piece on top. That was a lot harder than it had to be, and it was a lot messier and a lot of cleanup. So just put the glass piece on the edge and then run the hot glue along both of the corner pieces and then just hold it there until it's dry. But go all the way around and make a whole box out of all 4 of the glass pieces. This is the second thing that I'm making harder. Instead of just using the actual picture frame, I wanted it a lot thinner to give it a more modern look. So I'm going to be using these skewers from Dollar Tree. Just measure your actual glass. Sometimes Dollar Tree glass, they come in just different sizes. Not everything is the same. So just measure yours and just cut it to size. You'll need 8 of each size. This is exhibit B of what I'm making a lot harder. Don't do this. I don't know why I did this. This is just way harder than it has to be. I just like making problems for myself. I'm hot gluing the corners and then spray painting the frame. Just spray paint all of the pieces together and then hot glue them to the glass instead. Now that they are all spray painted, this was just way harder to put on than the individual pieces. So like I said before, just don't do it this way. Just do the individual pieces. So I do like the doubled edges, so I am adding another long piece to the sides. That's why we're doing 8 instead of just the 1 long piece on the side. So add another long piece and then a short piece and just do that all the way around. For the bottom, instead of the fake snow, I will be using the mop head from Dollar Tree. And I found this really cute big tree from Dollar Tree and then these smaller ones. And then I will be using these cute little reindeer from Walmart. They came in this big pack that we got, I think, for about $4. Now we are going to measure a piece of foam board, and that's what we're going to hot glue the mop head onto for the bottom. And then once you have a little template, just grab a knife and go ahead and cut it. We have really loved using these mop heads lately. You can definitely use the fake snow from Dollar Tree. I do think that you'd have to use quite a bit to fill up the same amount that this mop head uses though. So just cut it to size, and then we will go ahead and just hot glue it onto the foam board. And then for the pieces that it didn't cover, just use the same mop head and then just cut little pieces and cover those areas. I probably would have pushed it from the top to the bottom instead of from the bottom just slightly to the top and then hot glued it. Maybe you wouldn't have had so many of the fur at the bottom that you would need to cut after, but just get it to the very bottom and then hot glue it just so that it'll stay. And then cut any little pieces that are left. When that is done, it's time for the fun part, when you finally get to decorate. So then add all of your trees. And then your little reindeer. I didn't have to glue them in. If you just kind of wiggle them in, they should stay without any glue.
For this project, it's going to be a very simple one, but I think the results are absolutely stunning and very high-end modern looking. So what I'm using here is this glass vase from Dollar Tree, this matte black spray paint from Krylon, and we're going to give that a couple coats. Now, I was originally thinking of using this craft box, but I just didn't like how it turned out. It didn't match the vase, so I'm using another smaller vase from Dollar Tree and go ahead and spray paint that as well. After we have those painted, I'm just using a paper towel to shove in the bottom of this. That way we don't have to use so many pine cones. And then I'm using these larger pine cones from Dollar Tree. Go ahead and pull out a few of those and then place them around there to fill it up. I love using any kind of stuffing that you can. If you can save money by not using as much on a project, definitely do that. As you can see, we used way less than if we were to shove a bunch of pine cones in that vase. And then I actually decided to add a little bit more to this project, so I took this little candle holder from Dollar Tree and painted that black to go with these two vases as well. And then this little candle, you can get a pack of I think 4 or 6 for just a couple dollars from Walmart, and then that's gonna go inside there to go with our other two vases. To finish this vase, we're going to be using a pick from Walmart, but first I'm using this bag just to go in the bottom. That's going to make it easier to place our pick exactly how we want it. So this is from Walmart. It's only 98 cents. You can use Dollar Tree, but in my opinion, I love Walmart's picks. They look way better, so you can't go wrong with those. And that's really all there is to this project. Very modern and super clean looking design here. So I was very happy.
For this cute project, we are going to grab this hexagon box from Dollar Tree. They are just in the gift box section. I spray painted it with this Krylon Fusion matte black spray paint, and then we're going to go ahead and spray paint 2 of these ornaments from Dollar Tree as well. They are sparkly, so you will want to just grab a washcloth or something similar and just get soapy warm water and just try and get as much of the glitter off as you can. Then I am just setting up one of these trees from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just try and make it look quite a bit better than it does. This is what it looks like without doing anything to it. I grabbed one of these garlands and we are going to just cut pieces from it just to add some fullness to the tree so it doesn't look so bare. So I'm just going to be cutting pieces and wrapping them around the tree just in all of the bare spots. Just keep doing that in all of the spots and it should end up looking quite a bit better. There are pieces like this that are already pre-cut, but I couldn't find any at Dollar Tree, so I just grabbed this garland instead, and I did have quite a bit left over after this. This is what mine looked like after I filled it in. I think it looks so much better. Just to add a little bit to it, I grabbed 2 picks from Dollar Tree. I only ended up needing 1, and I'm just taking the pine cones off of it and hot gluing them onto the tree. Now that the box is dry, we're going to go ahead and put some floral foam at the bottom just so that there is some support for the tree. You would just want to take off the supports that the tree had at the bottom just so that it can fit inside the box. To cover up the floral foam, I just used this mop head from Dollar Tree, and you can just wrap it around the whole base. And then when the 2 reindeer ornaments are dry, they do not stand up on their own, so just the leg that is a little bit shorter, I just added a little bit of hot glue and waited for it to dry just a little bit, just so that it could stand up on its own. You can hot glue it to like a board or something, but I wanted it to just have a little bit more of a modern look.
For this project, you're going to need 3 of these wood plaques from Dollar Tree, and I'm using this early American stain from Minwax. Now, you're also more than welcome to use a paint and water it down. I've seen people use that for a stain effect. We like to use this stain because honestly, we go through it a lot and it only costs about $7 for that big can. So it will last you a very, very long time if you want to use actual stain. To start, I'm going to be using this chalk marker. Now, I noticed that Dollar Tree also has little white craft markers in their craft section, so you could also pick one of those up. I think it would work just the same. And what we're going to be doing is creating these Christmas trees on the plaques. So I'm kind of going with a very simple, minimal design, and it's very easy. The nice thing that I absolutely love about doing stuff like this is it does not have to be perfect, because I am not very good at art. So you really don't have to worry about making these perfect straight lines. We want it to feel organic and hand-drawn. So you want to start by just doing that first line down the middle, and then all I'm really doing is these little diagonal lines going down. Some of you can make thicker, some of them thinner, and some longer and shorter. And that's really all there is to this one. Very simple. And if you need to, you can go back and do a second coat on this tree after. For the second one, same thing, just start with a vertical line for the trunk of the tree, and then I did kind of a little circle at the top just for maybe a ornament or just to give it a little bit more character. And then what I'm going to be doing here is just drawing, same thing, these straight lines, and then as I go down, just making them a little bit longer each time. And then we're going to go through and add some little limbs to these. But this one, you do want to start smaller at the top and then make them longer as you go down. to add in the little branches, all you're really going to need to do is draw like a V shape. And I try to do about 3 or 4 of these on each line. And then as you work down and these lines get longer, just make sure to make your V's a little bit bigger so that it looks proportionate. And that's really all it is. Very simple design, but I think it looks very, very pretty. And for this last one, same thing, we're going to draw the vertical line for the trunk of the tree. And then this one, we're going to try and do a little bit more symmetrical and create like a geometric tree. So you want to start by drawing these 3 lines and try to keep them all at the same angle. And then I'm going to add a little star at the top as well, just to add some more character to this. Now to create that geometrical shape, what we're going to do is draw these lines that are angled back in towards the middle of the tree and connecting them with the top line to the bottom line. And this should give you a pretty symmetrical looking design. However, mine definitely did not turn out that way. So if anyone questions you and you have the same problems I do, just tell them that it is simply adding more character to the design and you did not want it to be perfect, and you should be just fine. Now that we have all 3 of our designs completed, we can move on to gluing on these little blocks on the back. So these are going to be the tumbling tower blocks that you can get from Dollar Tree, and I'm just simply hot gluing them onto the back to give it a little bit of a stand. That way these can stand up on a table. Now I would lean back the plaque just a little bit so that this is going to stand up easier for you. For this project, we're going to be using one of these triangle frames from Dollar Tree, and go ahead and remove that top part, and we'll want to sand down some of this residue. If you have some Goo Gone, that should help a little bit as well. Or if you have just those wood triangle frames without anything on it, those would be perfect. We just haven't been able to find those this year. And then I'm going to remove these little tabs in the back. You don't need those at all for this project. And again, we'll use that matte black spray paint to go ahead and paint the triangle. And then with these little ornaments, these are from Dollar Tree. They come in the big pack. It's kind of a long cylinder pack. I'm going to paint one of them with the matte black, and then I decided to do one with the oil rub bronze from Rust-Oleum just to give it a little bit of a different color. They're really, really similar, so you might not be able to tell, but I thought just a little variation would be kind of neat. And then I'm using this clear string to go ahead and tie these up and glue them so that they're hanging down in the middle of the triangle. Another thing you could do instead of the string is maybe some twine or some really thin ribbon. I was originally going to use some ribbon from Dollar Tree, but it was just too thick and took away from the minimal modern lines that we're going for this. So once you have got your string wrapped around there, go ahead and hang it and hold it from the top here, and you can get an idea of where you want that to be placed. Once you have that in place, go ahead and glue it to the back and allow it to dry for just a moment so they can hang freely. And once that's hanging, we can take our other ornament and then we can kind of position that. I would recommend getting down and level with your project so you can see right at it, and that way you can get an idea of where these are going to hang exactly. And we're always trying to give you different ideas, so I went with ornaments. You could do a bunch of different things with this. You could even keep it as is and maybe place a couple little trees on the bottom there and have a scene that would look really good with no ornaments. Or if you wanted to hang like a star, I think that would look really pretty. So there's a lot that you could do with this idea, but I really liked how it turned out with just 2 ornaments hanging on there.
For this project, you'll want to start out with one of these baskets from Dollar Tree, and I have seen a ton of these around lately, and we will be spraying it with this metallic oil rubbed bronze spray paint. And then you will just want to grab one of the Dollar Tree Christmas trees and then just go ahead and set it up. Like I have done before, I am grabbing this garland that I got from Dollar Tree, and I will be cutting pieces of it just to fill in the tree. I find that it looks a lot better, just more full and a little more expensive if you do it this way. I do like the little more bare and minimalistic look that some trees have, and you can definitely leave it this way, but for this specific look, I do want the tree to be a lot more full. Right here you can see how the bottom is a lot more full than the top. This was the first time I have ever used this snow spray. I haven't seen a lot of people use it, but it worked really well for me. The only tips that I would say is to go a little heavier than you want it. I did notice that it disappeared slightly. Obviously you can see I did go pretty heavy, and in the end you can see that it's a lot lighter. I did spray it with a matte sealer just so that the pieces didn't come off kind of when we store it. This is what the basket looks like once it is dry. We are just going to place a little bit of floral foam in the bottom and take all the pieces off that support the tree, and we will just go ahead and put the tree directly into the floral foam. Now I am just grabbing a $1 piece of fabric from Walmart, and I will just be wrapping it around the whole base of the floral foam and the tree just to give it kind of a blanket fabric-y type of look. In the end, I am wrapping beads around the whole entire thing, and I did use Dollar Tree beads to do this. If you would like to see how I made that, I will leave a link right here for that. This project was inspired by something I saw from West Elm, but I definitely didn't want to pay the West Elm price, so I got this glass bowl and these plastic bowls from Dollar Tree. We are going to leave the bowl facing right side up, but we are going to turn the plastic bowl upside down and hot gluing it on the bottom like this. This is one of the projects I would recommend using a stronger glue than just hot glue. You can use a mixture of the hot glue and E6000 or just E6000 and leave it overnight to dry. Once I hot glued it onto the bottom, I then spray painted it with the same spray paint we've been using, the Krylon Matte Black. This is another easy DIY, but I absolutely love how modern and minimal it looks. And then I grabbed these pine cones that smell like cinnamon from Dollar Tree and filled the whole entire bowl up. Let me know in the comments below if you would fill this with pine cones or if you would fill it with picks from Dollar Tree or Walmart, or let me know if there's anything else that you would fill it with below.
For these little mini planters, I guess you could call them, I'm going to be using these wood boxes from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to go ahead and paint them with a couple coats of this white chalk paint from Waverly. After we've got both of those coats on, we can move on to assembling this all together. So this pick is from Walmart for 98 cents. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And then these little wood pieces also are from Walmart. I think this whole package was about $3. They have fantastic stuff for Christmas over at Walmart, and we're actually going to be doing a haul video on our other channel, DIY for Less. So make sure if you haven't subscribed to that channel, guys, go do that. We're going to be doing a lot of hauls and shop with us videos on that channel. And then what we're going to also be using is this mop head from Dollar Tree, and we're going to be cutting that up a little bit to place it inside and act as a snow effect. And when cutting the mop, this does not have to be perfect at all. So all I'm doing is holding up the box next to the mop head, and then I'm going to cut all the way across it so that we can stuff that down inside. That will give us kind of that wintry snow effect, and then also it will hold our pick in place. The next thing you want to do so that you can get the pick inside and make sure that it holds it in place is just cut a little hole in the middle here, and then that's where we'll go ahead and slide the pick through, and then we can put the rest of this together. For this particular pick, I did have to bend the stem a little bit. You're more than welcome to cut it. We like to typically just bend them if we can. That way we can always just bend them back if we need to for future projects. And then I'm going to take this little wood piece from Walmart, and I'm just going to slide it in the front. You can also just glue this to the front of the box. I wanted to be able to remove it though in case I wanted to use it for something else. So I simply slid that top thread part inside, and then I slid the mop head and pick in to hold that in place. Next, we're going to be using these mirrors to create some Christmas wall decor. So you're going to need 3 of them. They are, I think, fairly new. We've only been able to find them at one store, so I really hope you guys can get your hands on these. They're really pretty, and I think there's a ton that you could do with these. So the first thing you want to do is you want to grab your garland. So this is just one of those big garlands that you can get from Dollar Tree, and I'm gonna wrap it around itself twice. And what I did is I just tried to cover up this little design you can see in the middle of the mirror, and that's kind of the measurements I went off, just to cover that and leave the outside corners. So all I did was cut it and wrap it around itself so it would stay tight. After we have our little wreath completed, we can add these berries. Again, these are just from Dollar Tree. You may need a couple of these to complete the wreaths, and I also believe you'll need 2 strands of the garland. So what I did is I just started wrapping it around the wreath, and then as I went around a second time, what I tried to do is hit all of the spots that didn't quite get very much coverage from the berries the first time, because I wanted to be subtle, but at the same time not to where you can't even notice the berries. That's why you want to try and get in those gaps where they didn't go the first time. And after our wreath is all ready to go, the last little thing I wanted to do is use some of this spray snow. Again, this is from Dollar Tree as well, and then go ahead and hit it all the way around there. I wanted to get quite a bit on there, and it seems like when we have applied this, it kind of, I don't know if it melts or kind of disintegrates or whatever, but you typically lose a little bit of that snow effect. So maybe a little bit more is better. That way, as it settles, you still have quite a bit on there. And then I'm just using some of this ribbon, also from Dollar Tree, to glue it on and hang it from the top. And that's going to complete the one project, and if you want, you can just leave it and do one. We decided to do 3 of these and have them as a full wall piece.
This little bow was too cute to pass up, so I had to grab it from Dollar Tree. I wasn't a huge fan of how it looked, it was just a little bit too traditional for me, so I took off all of the greenery and everything that was on it. Once that was off, I did spray it with the same spray paint that we've been using, which is the matte black spray paint from Krylon, and then I'll be using this faux leather that we got, I believe, just from a local craft store. I will be cutting it in half since I want it to be a little bit thinner, and then I will be just putting it up to the bell to see how long I want the loop to be. That's about how long I wanted my loop, so I looped it through the hole that was already there in the bell. Then I overlapped the two pieces, added a little bit of hot glue, and then I will be pulling the hot glue part of the leather back underneath so that it's hidden underneath the bell. Just to make it look a little bit nicer, this is a little piece of a pick that we have used, I believe from Walmart. I just took it off the pick and I will be hot gluing it onto the front of the bell. For this last project of today, we are going to work on this cute wooden star. You will just need these wooden dowels from Dollar Tree for the whole structure of the star. It might be easiest to kind of draw out a star. I just laid mine down kind of how I wanted it and then started hot gluing. It's not the most perfect star, but it worked great for me. I would try and only hot glue where the actual points are. If you hot glue where other points of contact are, it does end up being a little too stiff to maneuver it. So if you just do where the points are of the star, it ends up being a lot easier to slightly adjust it to get it all to fit a lot easier. If you've watched any of our other videos, you know I'm extra even when I try and do minimal stuff, so I did take these fairy lights from Dollar Tree and wrap it around all of the outside edges. Let me know in the comments below if you would have added the lights or if you would have just kept it the cute wooden star.
For this project, we're going to create a very minimalistic, modern lantern that's super easy, and I think it looks absolutely stunning when you're done. First thing that I'm going to be using is this tin can from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to be using that top piece and then these wood dowels from Dollar Tree. Now, I chose to use the 12-inch and the 6-inch. If you only want to use the 12-inch, you can do that and cut it down. I just like to use the 6-inch whenever I can because I like to save the 12-inch ones in case I need a longer piece for a different project. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is take one of the 12-inch dowels and I'm just going to glue it on the side here. Put quite a bit of hot glue on here. Now if you'd like to, you can definitely use a stronger glue for this. And then what I'm going to do is put a little bit of a strip of glue on each side to just give it a little bit more strength. Once you've let that dry pretty well, we can move on to gluing the other side. Now if you want to, you can try and get a perfect measurement. I'm honestly just going to eyeball it. I found that I can get a pretty good look and you're really not going to notice it if you're off just a little bit. And just do the same thing. I'm going to add some hot glue here, hold it upright and allow that to dry for a little bit, and then I'm going to go and add those two little strips on the outside parts of the dowel. So once we have that complete, the next part is to add our top piece of this. This is where I'm using that 6-inch piece. You can definitely use the 12-inch if you want. And then I'm going to hold it up in between and just mark that, and then that's where we're going to cut it. And I'm just going to use some wire cutters to cut that. If you have a little handsaw, you could use that as well, but I found the wire cutters work just fine. Now to connect this piece, we're just going to put a little bead of hot glue on the end there and then hold it up against this vertical piece. This is not something you have to do, but I like to allow the glue to dry just for a little bit, but as it's still warm, I like to take my fingers and kind of mold that glue around the pieces that I'm gluing. That way it just looks a little bit cleaner and you don't have some of those weird glue pieces sticking out. You don't have to, it's just something that I like to do. Once we have all of our pieces glued together, we can move on to painting it. I'm just going to use this Krylon matte black spray paint and give it a good couple coats. Once that's completely dried, we can move on to adding our vase, and this is just one of these smaller cylinder vases from Dollar Tree, and then I'm going to use a 6-inch candle from Michaels. And go ahead and slide the candle in there, and then we can put our vase in. That will complete this project. And you could even paint this gold. I think that would look good with a lot of different decor styles, and you can dress it up for Christmas or any other different holiday. I think it's absolutely beautiful, very sleek and modern.
This last project has been one of my favorites. We are going to start out with these mason jars. So the first one I showed you is from Dollar Tree, the next one is also from Dollar Tree, and the third one is from a thrift store. The first one is a little bit too small, so I'm going to be using the 2 larger sizes. And then these mini trees also from Dollar Tree. I spray painted this larger one, so the smaller one of this package, with this Krylon satin ivory spray paint, and I think it looked beautiful on the tree. The smaller trees do not spray paint very well at all. So I found this technique from Lemon Avenue Life on Instagram, and I'll link her below. She actually bleached these little trees and they came out so cute. So you just put a little bleach in a little cup and they come out so cute and white. It only took me about 20 minutes. And then after they turn white, I went in with this Dollar Tree snow spray to give it more of a white and snowy look. I am so obsessed how these little trees came out. If you're anything like me, you're obsessed with miniatures, and I would do this 100 times over. So definitely go give Lemon Avenue Life a follow below. She's amazing for coming up with this technique. So I spray painted one of the larger trees, and then I bleached 3 smaller trees and left one of the smaller trees green. So 3 of the little trees that I bleached will be white, but one of them I'm actually going to paint pink. I did end up spraying a little bit of the fake snow on the green one, and also a little bit on the cream one that I spray painted at the very beginning. Then for the last little one, I went in with this pink paint and just with this small brush painted all the little bristles. When that was dry, I just went in with the same snow spray. Let me know what you guys think of this technique in the comments below. Do you love the little mini trees, different colors? And also, do you love them white? Just let me know what you guys think in the comments. Now we are going to grab the smaller jar that I got from Dollar Tree and this white sand that I also got from Dollar Tree. We are going to fill the smaller jar with this, and it's going to act as the snow. Then we are just going to place our little mini trees inside like they are on a cute little snowy hill. If there's an easier way to place this inside the jar, please let me know in the comments. I just struggled a little bit, but ended up making it work. Then for the larger jar, we are going to do the same thing. This one unfortunately doesn't look as good on camera or in pictures, but it looks so cute in person. For some reason the jar just warps the look of it on camera and in pictures, but I promise it looks so adorable. I just did the same thing. I added some of the fake snow, which is the sand, and then added the cute trees.
Since we used the lid for our lantern, I thought it would be fun to try and create a vase with the remaining part of this can. So I'm going to go ahead and add a couple coats of that matte black spray paint. While that's drying, we're going to create a base here. So I'm going to use some of these tumbling tower blocks and that square cube from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to add this early American stain to all of those. Once we have all our pieces stained, we can move on to assembling the stand. So we want to start with the cube and then one of the tumbling tower blocks, and then just glue that to the side of the cube and then at the very bottom. So what I like to do is push it together and then put it on a flat surface and make sure that they are completely flush and even, so that when this is completed, we don't have any weird pieces. They're all going to sit flat and nice on the table. Once you have all 4 pieces glued on, what I like to do, and I did this earlier with the lantern, is I like to add just a little bit of glue along those creases right there. That's just gonna help strengthen it a little bit and keep it more stable. Once we have those 4 pieces glued on, we can move on to putting our vertical pieces. So this is going to complete our stand, and what I'm doing is just taking the rest of the tumbling tower blocks and I'm gonna glue them right on the end right there. Same thing, I like to put a little bead of glue on the end right there and then hold the other block on there for a minute, but then put it down on a flat surface and just make sure that those are flush. That way it doesn't wobble or anything when you have it sitting on a table. Once we have both of these pieces complete and they've dried, we can move on to assembling our vase and putting in the picks. So you just want to take the black can and put that in the middle of the wood stand. Next, I'm going to be using one of these smaller glass vases from Dollar Tree, and that's going to go inside. And then finally, we'll put our picks in there. So these are actually picks from Walmart. As you guys know, we like to get our floral and greenery from Walmart if we can. A lot of times you can find them around that dollar mark. These are actually 98 cents, and I'm going to be clipping off these red berries. I just wanted the pine for this. I wanted to keep it really clean and simple. You can definitely use Dollar Tree picks if you want. We just like the quality of these Walmart ones a lot better. So after we have those cut off, I'm going to move to placing these. You can definitely use a bag. However, for this one, the picks didn't really need it. So if you ever need to, guys, garbage bags or these store bags work really good for placing picks and holding them in place.
For this last project, we are going to grab one of these trees with this tinsel. We are going to remove all of the tinsel from this tree. Once that is all removed, we will have just this base of the tree. I do like how this looks, but I do not like all of these pokies that come along with it. So sometimes I'm a little reckless, so I just went in with a razor instead of thinking about what I'm doing. Don't do it this way. That's a little just too much. It did work, but please just don't do it this way. For the next tree, I did a lot safer way. But this is what it looks like with all of the pokey stuff gone. And then I went in with this oil rub bronze metallic spray paint from Rust-Oleum. For this smaller tree, I went in with the wire cutters and just took off all of the little pokies. This is a lot safer, a lot less reckless, and it works just the same. To get the smaller tree, all I did was just cut the one section off the bigger tree. Now that we have our two trees painted, I thought it would be cute to just have some lights on the inside. I thought it would be really pretty and minimal. This was a project that I was debating even putting in the video, so let me know if you like it in the comments below. And for our final craft of today, we're going to grab this foam board from Dollar Tree and measure out 14 inches across. Once we have that measured, you would just need to make a line so that we know where to cut. I used this knife to cut this foam board, and I also used this metal ruler from Dollar Tree. Now that our foam board is 14 inches wide, we're going to make it 16 inches long. So measure out 16 inches and go all the way down. We're just going to do the same thing, measure out the 16 inches, draw the line, and cut the foam board. With that complete, we are going to start on the frame. With the frame, I'm going to be using these extra long skewers. They're made from bamboo and they are from Dollar Tree. I only needed 2 of them. If you can't find these, you can use just the regular skewers or you can use dowels. You will just need more of them to cover the whole frame. So what I'm going to be doing is cutting off the pointy tip of it, and then I'm going to be measuring them out. So basically we're just going to be measuring out the 14 inches for 2 of them. And then the other 2, you do want them to be slightly longer so that they cover the ends of the 14-inch ones, if that makes sense. To figure that out, I just basically lined them up and then drew a tiny little line and cut right there, and then lined it up to my other skewer and line that up and cut them the same size. Now that we have all 4 of those cut, you will want to sand them down slightly. We will want to set the foam board over to the side since we will be painting these black with the Waverly chalk paint in the color ink. When those have dried, it's time to assemble our frame. So what I'm doing is just running hot glue along the whole base of the frame, and then I am going to be putting one of the 14-inch dowels on the bottom. Some of the skewers are curved slightly, so if you just kind of hold it up to the hot glue until it dries, they do straighten out, which works perfectly. So now that I have the one end done, I'm going to put the other 14-inch end on. When those 2 sides are done, then we just have to finish the other 2 sides. I just barely started doing this technique of either using dowels or skewers as the frame. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I just barely did it in this video here, and I'll link it right here. With the frame done, it's time to add the actual picture. So this I picked up at Walmart, I think for around $5, and we're only going to be using the actual deer part. There is a whole other part that says Happy Holidays, and there are little pine cones and everything, so you can get 2 signs out of this. These are meant to stick on walls, so you can take it off the foam board a few times. It doesn't rip the foam board, so that works perfectly since I don't always get it perfect the first time. What I originally tried to do is what it said, is to kind of stick it on and then peel off the backing, which did not work for me at all. It was crooked, I couldn't really tell what I was doing, so I just peeled it all up and then kind of just centered it using our very famous eyeballing technique, which we use for everything. And then since the actual deer is glittery, I just went in with this cloth and then just pushed out all the bubbles so that you don't see it in the final result. I love how this turned out, and since you can make 2 signs out of this whole thing, I only count it as being $2.50. I love, love, love that Walmart has tons of options, so definitely go check out your local Walmart and see if they have anything else that you can make a whole sign or picture out of.
For these ornaments, I'm going to use 2 of these from Dollar Tree. Now the smaller one comes in a pack of 2, but we only need 1 of those, and then the bigger one is by itself. So 1 bigger one, 1 of the smaller ones, and then this black matte spray paint. So the easiest way I found to spray paint this and make sure that you're not touching it is go ahead and remove that top piece and keep the wire that you would normally hang a hook on and then put it onto the tree. Keep that part, and then we're going to slide that inside the ornament. And then what I did was just take a little bit of twine, if you have some string, whatever will work, tie it in a circle and then loop it through there so that you can hang this up to dry. Makes it really easy after you spray paint it. You don't have to worry about trying to not touch it or place it on a particular spot so it doesn't roll around, but that worked out just perfect. And then here I'm using this suede from Joann, and I'm gonna actually cut the strip in half, and then we're gonna wrap that around the entire top part here so it's covering up the black lip. And all I did was glue down a little part of it, wrap it around, and then I glued it on itself. Now, I would just cut it to size before, since it was kind of a pain after I wrapped it around and glued it. It was a little bit of a pain to cut it with the scissors, so I would wrap it around, see how much you need, and then cut it before actually gluing it down. And once we have that piece all the way around the top, we can move on to the loop that's actually going to hang on the tree. So I ended up putting a little bit of glue on the inside of the ornament and then also on the suede strip. And then you'll want to make sure you give that enough time to dry before you try the other side, because it seemed to pull off pretty easy if you didn't. And then go ahead and loop it around and then just do the same thing right here for the other side. And this is just, again, another idea for you. I really like these 2 colors, kind of that brown suede look with the black. I think it's very modern and it's just an idea. So if there's something else that you guys think that would work perfect for this project, definitely do it. We just love to give you some different inspirations and ideas. You don't have to do it exactly how we do it. And then for the bigger piece, same thing, except for I'm going to use the full suede strip. Instead of cutting it in half, just leave it as is, and then go ahead and wrap that around the top just like we did with the smaller one. One thing I noticed too is when working with this suede, since it was wrapped around that cardboard pretty tight, there's those little creases you can see. I just kind of bent them and got them out a little bit, but I'm sure there's something that would work well, maybe ironing it or like a steamer on low heats. I'm not quite sure, so if you guys have an idea that works well for kind of getting those creases out of like leather or the suede, let me know in the comments, because I haven't really worked with it that much and I would love to know a good option to get that to look really straight and those kinks out of there.
For this next project, you'll need one of these cooling racks from Dollar Tree. I went in between the 6th and 7th metal sections, I guess you could say, and cut it all the way in half, and then you'll flip it around and cut all the extra little pieces so that each of the metal sections have 6 rows all the way across. Once you have those, I didn't like the little parts that stick up on the cooling rack, so I took those off. I would recommend just cutting that whole entire section off instead of the little piece, because when we fold it here in a second, they do stick out, and I just cut it off anyways. So the sections are separated in fourths, and we are going to bend the very outside fourth sections. The easiest way is to just kind of do what I'm doing here, to lay it flat and then kind of get it started, and then put your hand down and then push it up. Just make sure to not bend it past that point or else they could snap, and then do it to the other side so it makes this nice shelf look. Like I said before, I had to cut these little pieces off because I didn't cut them off earlier like I probably should have. So if you're going to do this, just cut those one sections off completely. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're just going to grab the one section and then bend it all the way. Then I spray painted those with the matte black spray paint. So the square version of these wood planks from Dollar Tree would have fit these perfectly, but I couldn't find them anywhere. So you could try and use these rectangle wood planks for the top, but I ended up just using these stir sticks that we get from Walmart. They are 5-gallon stir sticks, and they're really durable, and we love using them for our projects. So to make both of the shelves, I did 6 of these stir sticks, and I'm cutting them all at 9.5 inches. We used a jigsaw to cut all of our wood, and we have really liked it, and it's very affordable. We have a link in the description below to buy the same one that we have. When those are all cut, you will want to sand them down just slightly. And then I went in with this early American stain and stained them all. These are how the shelves look after they are painted black. I really love how industrial they look. And then we're going to place the wood on top. With the 3, there will be a slight gap in the back, so just make sure when you're placing these on, the gap is in the back so it's not as noticeable. To attach these, the easiest way that I found is to lay the stir stick down and flip everything over and then hot glue it. This is one of those times that I would recommend using a stronger glue like E6000 and hot glue. But just load up every contact place that the wood has with the metal, and then you can flip it over, put the next piece on, just make sure it's even, flip it over again, and then just load up the same places with hot glue. Then we're going to add our third and final piece. Like I said, there will be the gap in the back, which you don't really notice though. And this is how the little shelf looks when it is all done. Now we're just going to do the same thing with the other shelf. With them both done, they can be stacked like this, which I do like that they have that option. I love that it can be made into kind of like a more modern tiered tray. All these decorations that I'm using are either from Walmart or from Dollar Tree. They're ornaments or just picks from Walmart, which I love. You can decorate it however you want for all the holidays, or after the holidays, I'm going to be putting this in my spice cabinet, and it's going to make a great little organization tool for me, which I really, really love.
For this centerpiece project, I found this at Dollar Tree the other day and thought it was really, really cool. First time I've seen this bowl there, and it has some awesome texture to it. So I thought it would be fun to do it for one of these modern projects as kind of a centerpiece. So as you can see, after we've painted with that black, a really, really cool texture, and I think it was perfect for the modern minimalist style here. So after we have that painted, I'm going to take some Dollar Tree floral foam and go ahead and place in the bottom here. After you have the floral foam in there, we can put some candles in here. Now you could always try and hot glue this stuff in position. Since we repurpose a lot of our stuff, I try to avoid that when I can. But if you're trying to create something a little bit more permanent, you can definitely try to glue these in here. And then once we have the candles positioned, I'm just going to use some of this garland from Dollar Tree to put in as some filler. Now these candles are from Michael's, so you're always able to go to Dollar Tree or maybe Walmart to get something cheaper, but with a coupon, these 6-inch candles, a pack of 2 was only about $6, so right around 3 a piece, which I think is really good, especially for the quality that they are. So once we have the garland in there, I decided to wrap it kind of around the candles just to cover up that foam a little bit better and fill in some of those gaps. After you have all the garland in place, you guys know we like to step up our game and use these super high-end picks from Walmart. They're only 98 cents, so I think they look a lot better than the Dollar Tree ones, and they're actually a little bit cheaper. So I would go with those options. You don't have to though. If you want to stick strictly to Dollar Tree, you can definitely do that. But anytime you guys can do something a little bit better for the same price, I would definitely do it. And then to go with the picks, I'm just using some of these pine cones from Dollar Tree to complete this centerpiece. If you guys are enjoying all of these modern Christmas DIYs, make sure to jump through and watch all of our other videos on our Christmas playlist right here. And as always, we hope you enjoyed today's video. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can be notified every time we upload a new video.